Fortunately for us, Grandmother was too busy dealing with a surprise van load of senior citizens to pay much attention to Corey and me. Mrs. Brewster had made an emergency trip to Middlebury to buy food for the unexpected guests, and Mr. Brewster was occupied schlepping suitcases and other paraphernalia. Taking advantage of the activity, Corey and I lay low in the swimming pool all afternoon. If no one saw us, we wouldn't have to answer any questions. When we showed up for dinner, the dining room was packed with laughing people, talking loudly and roaming from table to table, taking pictures of each other. No one saw Seth poking his head into every group shot, showing off his gap-toothed grin. Caleb and Ira contented themselves with watching from the ceiling fan. Round and round they went, their faces solemn, causing no disturbance, for once. Mrs. Brewster lingered at our table. "The bad ones are here. Did you notice?" "Yes." Grandmother watched Seth strike a silly pose with the lady with the video camera. "Will he show up when she looks at her pictures?" "She'll think the camera's broke," Mrs. Brewster answered. "All her pictures will be ruined by white streaks, like light got in." When Mrs. Brewster crossed the room to refill water glasses, Grandmother turned to us. "Have you made any progress finding the account book?" We shook our heads and busied ourselves with the chicken parmesan, another excellent gourmet treat from Mrs. Brewster. "Even though I can see those boys, I still find it hard to believe my own eyes." Grandmother frowned at the perfect green bean she had speared. "Was it a mistake to send those psychics away?" Ira dropped down from the fan and took a seat beside her. "They were flim-flammers," he said. "You were right to tell them to leave." Seth took a seat on her other side. "No matter what they tell you, folks can't catch us with those fancy ghost-hunting machines." "What about priests?" Grandmother asked. "Does exorcism work?" "Rarely," Ira said. "The trouble is they usually don't take the time to get to know spirits. If you don't know what's holding us here, you can't make us leave." Grandmother started to laugh. "I'm sorry," she told the bad ones, who looked not only puzzled but hurt by her giggles. "I just can't believe I'm actually having this conversation. Sometimes I'm convinced I've lost my mind and I'm hallucinating." The bad ones looked at each other as if they were both thinking the same thing. "Maybe you are," Ira said in that solemn way of his. "Hallucinating." Grandmother smiled. "Actually, I wouldn't mind if I were temporarily insane. At least I'd have a chance of regaining my faith in a rational world where the dead stay dead and don't swing on chandeliers." While she spoke, she watched Seth perform acrobatic feats overhead. One of the new guests pointed at the chandelier. "Look at that!" "What's making it swing?" another asked. All the diners sat staring, their chicken forgotten. Seth imitated the daring young man on the flying trapeze. He was, of course, invisible to them. An elderly woman gasped and got to her feet. "It's going to fall!" she cried. As the guests began to hurry out of the room, Caleb and Ira joined Seth and told him to stop. While Seth protested loudly, all three vanished and the chandelier slowly came to a stop. Grandmother hastened after the guests. "It's all right," she assured them. "The chandelier does that sometimes. It's stopped now. Please come back and have dessert." Martha's prepared a double chocolate cake with her own special raspberry sauce. "It's absolutely delicious." Murmuring to themselves, the guests returned reluctantly to their tables. Mrs. Brewster hustled about, serving generous slices of dark chocolate cake sitting in pools of raspberry sauce. Although the guests eyed the chandelier from time to time, the cake placated them. Soon the room filled again with voices and laughter. Grandmother looked at the people at the other tables and sighed. "Just think," she said slowly. "Once I was as ignorant as they are." Corey and I went on eating, savoring each bite of cake as if it might be our last. Grandmother sipped her coffee, her cake untouched. Mrs. Brewster passed our table on her way to offer more coffee to the guests. "Isn't it to your liking?" she asked Grandmother. "The cake?" Grandmother touched it with her fork. "Sorry, Martha, I'm sure it's delicious, but I'm not very hungry tonight." "Nothing affects the children's appetites," Mrs. Brewster observed. "Are you offering seconds?" I asked. "It's all gone." With that, Mrs. Brewster bustled around the room to refill coffee cups. "Bummer," I muttered. "Here, split mine between you." Grandmother slid her plate toward us. "Are you sure you don't want it?" Corey asked. Grandmother nodded. "Take it, please. We don't want to hurt Martha's feelings." Grandmother watched us eat and then excused herself to sit on the porch for a while. By the time we joined her, she was surrounded by the guests. One woman had read Haunted Inns and was full of questions. Have you seen any ghosts, she asked. Heard any strange sounds? Felt cold spots? Grandmother shook her head, but she didn't meet the woman's eyes. When that chandelier started to swing, I thought it was ghosts for sure, the woman said with a nervous laugh. The other guest chuckled uneasily. That's the strangest thing I've ever seen, one said. You say it happens often? Another asked. Grandmother pressed her hand against her forehead and got up. You'll have to excuse me, she said. I'm not feeling very well. Leaving the guests to chatter amongst themselves, Corey and I followed Grandmother inside. She stopped in the kitchen and asked Mrs. Brewster to call Tracy. These folks will be staying until next week's group arrives, she said. I could really use some help, and I'm sure you could too. I'll do my best to talk her into coming, Mrs. Brewster said. Too bad she's such a nervous Nellie. She looked at Grandmother closely. If you don't mind my saying so, Mrs. Donovan, you don't look too good. I don't feel too good either, Grandmother admitted. When your worldview suddenly changes overnight, it's bound to leave you a little shaken. I reckon so. Mrs. Brewster's eyes shifted to Corey and me. See what your pranks have led to? Misery for everybody. That's not fair, Corey began, but Grandmother silenced her with a shake of her head. Hush, Corey, she said wearily. I'm going to my room to read. She held up Bleak House, a thick novel by Charles Dickens. The odious Mr. Tulkinghorn has just put poor Lady Dedlock in a terrible position, and I'm anxious for her. Corey and I started to follow Grandmother into her apartment, but Mrs. Brewster stopped us. Find that account book, she said, and get this business done with. It's hard on your poor grandmother. It's hard on us, too, Corey said. Well, don't expect any sympathy from me. Finished with us, Mrs. Brewster picked up a scouring pad and attacked a blackened pot. I sure wish Tracy was here, she muttered. Before we left the kitchen, I glanced at the clock. 7:35. 4 hours and 25 minutes to go until midnight. To pass the time, Corey and I tried to play chess, but we couldn't concentrate. We set up Monopoly, Scrabble, and Clue, but were unable to finish a game before our minds wandered to the burial ground. We took turns reading to each other from a collection of Edgar Allan Poe stories we'd found in the library, but considering what lay ahead, they were too scary. At 10 o'clock, we sneaked into the kitchen and ate almost half a gallon of chocolate chip ice cream. Back in my room, Corey suggested a game of hangman. Deciding that was a bad idea, we started working on a crossword together. As we puzzled over a 5-letter word, third letter T, meaning beyond the fringe, the grandfather clock chimed 11:45. Oh no, Corey whispered, it's time. As silently as our shaking legs could carry us, we sneaked through the kitchen and outside. High in the sky, the man in the moon looked down, his sad face slightly askew, and watched us run across the lawn. Dark on the silver grass, our shadows raced ahead of us. We plunged into the bushes and battled our way through the branches to the burial ground. The bad ones sat in their favorite tree, obviously waiting for us. Land sakes, Caleb muttered. I'd forgotten how much noise the living make. It's those galumphous big shoes they wear, Seth swung his feet bare as usual. They're fit for elephants, they are. I looked down at my thick-soled running shoes. They didn't look galumphous to me, but shoes were hardly the issue tonight. Soundlessly, the bad ones dropped from tree and joined us. You're late, Ira said. According to my reckoning, it's 1 minute past midnight. We had to find 2 more shovels, I said. We left the others in the grove. And we almost forgot this. Corey held up a battery-operated lantern. Well, we'd best get busy. Caleb led us through the underbrush to Miss Ada's burial place. Corey switched on the lantern and set it on the ground. She looked surprisingly calm, but my heart was hammering so hard it shook my chest and my hands were clammy with fear. Cautiously, I poked at the dirt with my shovel. Gotta work faster than that, Seth said, or we'll be here a month of Sundays. Won't digging wake her up? Corey whispered. We told you, she ain't here. Seth kicked at the dirt. Don't you never listen? All of us looked at the grove. An owl called, but nothing stirred in the dark trees. What's to stop her from coming, I wondered. Reluctantly, I put more muscle into my task. The ground was surprisingly soft, and my shovel bit into it easily. Corey started digging too. Soon we dug down at least 3 feet without coming across anything. Despite the cool night air, we were both sweating. Here, let me try. Seth grabbed Corey's shovel and went to work. Caleb took mine, and Ira settled down on his haunches, his eyes fixed on the grove. All around us, the shadow children romped and played. "You're it," one cried. "Catch me if you can," another called. Suddenly, Seth dropped his shovel and jumped backward. "I hit something." "A tree root, most likely," Caleb said in a low voice. "Or a rock." Ira grabbed the lantern and held it over the hole. Held fast by roots, the corner of a box protruded from the earth. "Her coffin," Ira whispered. We drew back. There was no sound but the wind in the trees, yet we felt Miss Ada's presence out here in the dark. "Don't make a sound," Ira whispered. "Don't say a word, just finish digging." Seth thrust his shovel at me. "I done my part." Caleb and I bent to our task. Cautiously, we cleaned the dirt from the coffin's top. The lantern's light illuminated the tarnished metal plate. Here lie the mortal remains of Miss Ada Jaggs. My knees turned to water. It's all I could do to stand there and watch Caleb push the side of his shovel under the lid. Corey grabbed Caleb's arm to stop him from prying the lid off. "Suppose the book's not in there." "It has to be," he muttered. As Caleb leaned back on the shovel's handle, Corey covered her face with her hands. "I don't want to see her," she whispered. Neither did I, but I couldn't turn my eyes away. Hypnotized with dread, I watched Caleb lever the lid up with the hideous screeching sound of nails pulling out of wood. In the coffin's darkness, I saw a skull, tangles of hair, and rags of clothing. Cradled in the bones of Miss Ada's hands was a rusty iron box. Caleb reached down, grabbed the box, and handed it to me. "Take this back to the inn. Write down the names and numbers of the dead so you can make proper tombstones for us all." Seth and Ira closed the coffin lid, picked up the shovels, and began tossing dirt into the grave. I wanted to help, but Caleb looked at the grove fearfully and shook his head. "Get out of here," he whispered, "before she comes." Leaving the bad ones to refill Miss Ada's grave, Corey and I ran across the lawn. The box was heavy and smelled of damp earth. It was slippery and awkward to hold. At one point, at any moment, I expected to hear Miss Ada's voice or feel her bony hand clutch my arm, my shoulder, my shirt. The harder I ran, the slower I seemed to move. But at last, Corey and I were at the inn's back door, fumbling with the knob, trying to be quiet, but desperate to get inside. Fortunately, Grandmother was a sound sleeper, and we managed to get back to my room without waking her. I put the box on the floor. With a twist of my wrist, I broke the rusted padlock and lifted the lid. The account book's leather cover was damp and stained with mold. I picked it up, hating the rotten feel of it in my hands, and opened it. Miss Ada had recorded the names of 67 people, their ages, the dates they died, and the number assigned to them. Her old-fashioned handwriting slanted neatly to the right. Each letter was perfectly formed. I opened my notebook and picked up a pen. Slowly and carefully, I copied the 67 names, their ages, death dates, and burial numbers. By the time I was finished, it was after 3 a.m., and Corey had fallen asleep on my bed. Too tired to worry about Miss Ada or anything else, I lay down on the rug and fell fast asleep.